Hey everybody, this is Dan from rightbrainnow.com. Today's lesson, we are going to cover Adobe Illustrator and the initial preferences and windows you might want to consider using when you are initially setting up the program before you begin working on a document. So let's get started and go down here. You can see I am using Adobe Illustrator Creative Cloud. So we're just going to open that program. To get to the preferences, go up here to Illustrator, Preferences, and click General. Couple other ways to get to the same menu. On a PC, you can go Edit, Preferences, General, or you can use the hotkeys on a PC, Control K, and it will pop up this window, or Command K on a Mac, and you will get to this same window as well. So here you can see our list of options and preferences and categories here on the left. Here we're starting in the General menu. The option I use the most, I use most the out-of-the-box options that have already been selected for me by Adobe, but one that I change frequently is keyboard increment. What this means is every time I hit the arrow key, up, down, right, left, doesn't matter, the object that I have selected on the screen will move by 0.014 inches. I come in here frequently using those hotkeys, Control K or Command K, to change this option. If I want the object to move a little quicker, I will just delete that 0, and now every time I hit the arrow key, the object that I have selected will move by 0.14 inches. So that is the option I use a lot on here. The rest, if you want to know more detail about anything here, I will offer some resources in the show notes. Just for the sake of time, I'm not going to go through every single one of them, but all these down here have been the standard out-of-the-box options that Illustrator has set. Sync settings, this is a Creative Cloud thing. As you can see, I don't have any setting options enabled. I don't use it. I save all my documents locally, so that's just my preference. Selection and anchor display. You can see you have your selection tolerance and your snap to point. So as you click and you're dragging something, it will snap to a point within 2 pixels. Down here you have your anchor point and display. So this would be for like the pen tool, anchors on pen points, things like that. Small, medium, and large. I just have the medium selected, as well as the highlight anchors over a mouse, on mouse over. So as you come over the anchor point, that anchor point will highlight so you can easily select it. Type, here are your typing options. So you got font preview down here, number of recent fonts, 5. So the fonts that I use the most, that I use the most frequently, and the 5 last fonts that I used will show up at the top of the font menu, so I can easily select them so I don't have to scroll through the entire list. So highlight substituted fonts. This is another cool little feature. If you get a document from a friend and you open it and you see fonts on the screen that are highlighted, that means that you don't have that font loaded on your system, so it'll highlight it and let you know that just by looking at the document. Units, I prefer using inches. Sometimes I also use pixels. It kind of depends on what purpose and what guidelines I'm working under for Illustrator. But as you can see, they got a bunch of different options under here. Stroke, I use points for stroke, but you can see you have all the same options for that. And then type, you have different options for that, but point is the most common. That's what Microsoft Word uses, things like that. As you're typing, you got your 10-point, 11-point, 12-point fonts. So that's where you would change that if you so desired. Guides and grids, same as in Photoshop, you have your guides and your grids that you can use. These are all the standard options. They work pretty darn good for me, so I have just left them as is. Smart guides, this is for smart objects. If you were to link a smart object into your Adobe Illustrator document, it would be highlighted with green. Again, these colors work great for me. These colors I don't use a lot in either the guides or the smart guides, so that color is very easily distinguishable by my eye, so I just leave that as that color. Slices. Slices are when you're using the slice tool, which appears right there. say we were creating a document that we wanted to use on our web page, and we wanted that document to be sliced into 4 different areas, and each area we were going to code on our website to link to a different destination. We would slice that document using that slice tool into 4 different regions. Those regions would be outlined with this color, is what that means. So hyphenation, it hyphenates for me as I'm typing, so I don't have any exception entries there. I just let it do its own thing. Plugins and scratch disks, I don't use any additional plugins. Adobe Illustrator for my use is everything I need. Scratch disks is, you can see startup is the only option I have available. I'm working on a Macintosh laptop and a MacBook, excuse me. And so that means it is going to use my startup drive as my scratch disk, and I have no other secondary scratch disk. This Macintosh hard drive is my startup drive, so I just have none selected there. User interface, this controls what the window around here looks like. So you can see you can do light if you so choose, or very dark if you choose. I choose a nice neutral gray. The colors in the window can affect how you edit certain illustrations or drawings, so I keep my desktop very limited down on color. Basically the only color that appears on the screen are these icons, except for the documents that I'm working in at the time. And then file handling and clipboard, so this controls how your system uses files and clipboards. If you wanted to change any of this, I've left this all as a default. I change the different file options based on how I want to export or save my document. And then the appearance of black, the final option down here, you have 100K black, so this is your 100% CMYK value, so you have CMYK, or CMY, excuse me, all set to 0, and if you had K all the way to the right at 100%, it would appear as a very, very dark gray, almost black, and then rich black actually appears as black, black, black. So you can see kind of how those will appear on the screen, and you can see as you scroll over, it kind of gives a little description down there. So those are those options. They are how I want them to be, so I will click OK. And then now you can see the window as far as the way the tools are laid out. I am working in the Essentials workspace here, and they have different workspaces that you can choose from. I am going to come up here to Window, and just like in Photoshop, you have a bunch of different windows you can choose from. All my windows I already have set up off to the right over here, but say I wanted to have the magic wand, I could open that window and I could click and drag it into my workspace down here, and now that tool becomes available when I want to use it, easily accessible. So let's say I've gone through all these windows, I've chosen the ones, snapped them off to the right grid over here, the right toolbar, and now this is the way I want my workspace to look every single time that I am in Adobe Illustrator. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to come up to Workspace, and I am going to set a new workspace, and this is my workspace. So I am going to type Dan and click OK, and you can see the Essentials up here that we were working in has now changed to Dan, my custom workspace. So no matter who gets on this computer, who changes my tools around, who moves things around, moves options around, deletes windows, adds windows, I can always come up to Window and go to Workspace Dan, and if they are working in Dan and mess it up, you can always come down here to Reset Dan and click that, and it will reset to the saved workspace on the computer. So that covers the initial setup of Illustrator. Again, I am Dan with rightbrainnow.com. Subscribe to the channel, visit the website, and we will see you in the next lesson. Take care.